Usually when we talk about these centuries-old historical conflicts, there's this expectation of a clean break.
Right, like a snapped bone or something.
Exactly. You look back at a timeline, you see a fracture, and you just assume that from that day forward, there's a totally different set of rules.
Yeah, you picture two groups living in completely different realities with, absolutely nothing in common.
But when you actually step out of that broad strokes timeline and look closely at the day-to-day history of how people lived, that clean break just vanishes.
It really does.
You find a landscape that is far more intertwined, far more complex than the textbooks usually suggest. So today we are taking a deep dive into the source material of a really thought-provoking document.
Yeah, it's titled A Brief History of Islamic Civilization.
Right. It's an essay authored by Farid de Bruins out in Cape Town, and it's dated June 18th, 2026, which happens to perfectly coincide with the first of Muharram, 1448.
A very significant date, yeah.
Yeah, and our mission for you today is very specific. We are going to completely bypass the theological debates.
Totally. We are looking strictly at the ground-level historical realities.
Right.
Like, over the course of more than a millennium, how have Muslims actually lived, ruled, and coexisted, both with each other and, with their neighbors?
Okay, let's unpack this, because the premise of this document essentially flips the script on how we view historical and modern divisions.
It really does.
It uses history to offer this incredibly unique lens on human character itself.
What's fascinating here is that to properly explore this, we need a really broad canvas.
Right.
As we dive into this, imagine the visual backdrop around us just constantly shifting. We're talking a montage that blends the ancient scroll-filled libraries of Baghdad, the intricate brass star charts of early astronomers, right through to the bustling modern cityscapes of the Middle East and South Asia.
Wow, yep.
That synthesis of knowledge is exactly what we are about to explore. Because the author's ultimate focus isn't really on the grand mechanics of empire building. It's on the enduring shared practices of everyday people.
And to understand those everyday people, we really have to start by dispelling a massive historical misconception regarding the timeline of Islamic dynasties.
Oh.
If we start right after the Prophet's era, the first phase is the rightly guided caliphs. So that's Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali. But the text makes a huge point to clarify that this was not a dynasty.
No, it wasn't hereditary at all. That period, from 632 to 671 CE, is viewed as this era of simple consultative governance.
Right.
It was defined by massive expansion into Persia and Byzantium, the critical compilation of the Quran, but also, the first painful internal civil wars.
Right, and after that, the actual governance structure shifts entirely. We get the first hereditary dynasty, the Umayyad Caliphate, ruling out of Damascus.
Yeah, they lasted about 89 years.
And their expansion was just staggering, like stretching the empire all the way from Spain to India. But what's interesting is how they started formalizing the state.
Right, the administration side of it.
Yeah, you had Caliph Abd al-Malik standardizing Arabic coinage. And that's not just a minor economic footnote,
Definitely not.
Stamping identical coins isn't just about trade. It's about putting the state's undeniable tactile stamp in the hands of every single merchant across 3 continents.
It creates a shared daily physical reality for everyone.
Exactly. Then you have figures like Umar II, remembered for his deep piety and these sweeping tax reforms that just fundamentally changed the social contract of the empire.
But the mechanics of empire inevitably shift.
Right.
So the Abbasid revolution overthrows the Umayyads in 750 CE, and they move the capital to Baghdad.
Right, a huge shift.
Huge. And this kicks off a roughly 500-year reign, heavily marked by the Islamic Golden Age in the 8th and 9th centuries.
Which brings us to a massive realization when reading this text. When we look at this expansive timeline, from those early caliphs to the Umayyads to the Abbasids, it is so tempting to project modern labels backward onto them.
Oh, people do it all the time.
Yeah, but the author emphasizes that the labels Sunni and Shia simply did not exist from the beginning.
Right. During the Prophet's lifetime, and in those really crucial early decades, all followers identified simply as Muslims or believers.
Yeah.
The division started as a completely different mechanism.
The text notes that the term Shiat Ali, which means the party of Ali, started purely as a political faction.
Purely political.
Yeah, it was a group of people who believed Ali was the rightful first caliph based on succession. Conversely, the term al-Sunnah wa al-Jama', which came to define the mainstream Sunni identity, didn't even emerge until the 8th or 9th century to consolidate the broader community.
And the transformation from a political preference into a rigid religious identity, well, that requires a catalyst. The text points to the year 680 CE as that definitive turning point. That's the tragedy at Karbala, where Hussein ibn Ali, the Prophet's grandson, was martyred.
I want to make sure we really grasp the mechanics of how that works over centuries. It's almost like a massive dispute over who runs a multi-generational family business.
Okay, yeah.
It starts as pure logistics and administration, but then during the negotiations, a tragedy happens. Someone is killed. Suddenly, it's not about the administrative dispute anymore.
Right, the grief takes over.
The grief becomes the core defining identity of that branch of the family. It gets passed down until the original logistical debate is practically irrelevant compared to the shared memory of the loss.
That captures the psychological shift perfectly. Karbala took a debate about leadership and transformed it into this deeply emotional, distinct Shia identity centered on sacrifice and justice.
Oh.
And the memory of that event is so profound that the month of Muharram, which is the exact month this essay was written in, remains a highly sacred time of reflection for all Muslims today. The initial fracture just wasn't about the mechanics of how to pray or fast. It was about the trauma of succession.
And understanding that these labels are historical rather than original totally changes how you view sectarian conflict.
Absolutely.
Because if this historical split was as profound and foundational as the modern news cycle implies, you would assume it completely shattered how people worshipped on a daily basis.
Right, you'd think they were doing two completely different things.
Exactly. But the text reveals that it hardly affected daily practice at all. What unites the community overwhelmingly overshadows what divides it.
Yeah, when you strip away the high-level political history and just look at the ground-level core practices, the Sunni and Shia schools are virtually identical.
Let's actually look at that daily reality. Both observe the Salah, facing the exact same Qibla.
Right.
The text notes Shia Muslims might combine some of those prayers into 3 times a day, but the absolute obligation of the 5 daily prayers remains identical. Both fast from dawn to sunset during Ramadan. Both perform the exact same rites during the Hajj.
Exactly the same.
Both give the obligatory zakat, though the Shia tradition adds the 20% khums tax on annual surplus. And fundamentally, both recite the exact same shahada.
The author distills this perfectly. To quote the text, on any given day, a Sunni and a Shia standing side by side in prayer are indistinguishable to an outsider.
Indistinguishable. And that unity extends socially, too. Both schools of law permit intermarriage, and the text points out this isn't some rare theoretical exception.
No, not at all.
It's incredibly common in mixed regions like Iraq, Lebanon, parts of the Gulf, and South Asia.
The lived reality is really one of shared spaces, shared families, and shared devotion.
But wait, if they're essentially doing the exact same things physically side by side, why does history paint them as 2 distinct groups constantly at war?
That is the big question.
Right. Like, if the practices are identical, why the massive historical conflicts?
This raises an important question, and the answer comes down to the mechanics of power. Political rulers require cohesion, and when a ruler needs to secure their borders against a rival empire, emphasizing a sectarian difference is an incredibly effective way to manufacture domestic loyalty.
Oh, wow. So it's threat manufacturing.
Exactly. You amplify minor differences to create a cohesive us against a menacing them. But the ground-level social reality for the average person has always leaned toward coexistence unless a ruler actively disrupted it.
So the rulers are essentially turning the dial on social harmony.
Precisely.
The text digs deep into how different empires handled the other, meaning non-Muslims and varying sects. It reveals a direct correlation between a society's focus on broad education and its level of tolerance.
Yeah, let's look at the Abbasids in Baghdad.
Right. Under caliphs like Harun al-Rashid and al-Mamun, they built the House of Wisdom, the Beit al-Hikmah, initiating massive patronage of science, mathematics, medicine, and astronomy.
Think about the mechanics of that kind of society. If your state's primary goal is translating complex Greek mathematics and Indian astronomy, you cannot afford to care about the theology of your best translators.
Right, you just need the skill.
You simply need the best minds available. This inherently necessitates a tolerant infrastructure. So they protected Christians and Jews under the al-Dima status, allowing them to worship and run their own courts because their intellectual contributions were vital to the state's vision.
And this wasn't just a Sunni phenomenon. The Fatimids, a Shia dynasty ruling from Cairo, were known for the exact same exceptional tolerance.
Oh, absolutely.
They founded Al-Azhar University in 970 CE, open to all, and actively employed Christians and Jews as high-ranking viziers in their government. You are trusting state security to people outside your sect because you value their expertise over their specific religious label.
And we see this highly structured tolerance later with the Sunni Ottoman Empire and their millet system.
Right, the millet system.
It's a fascinating mechanism for diffusing tension. Instead of the central government micromanaging every community, they granted Christian and Jewish minorities legal autonomy.
Ah, okay.
Those communities handled their own family law, education, and local courts. It removed the friction of a monolithic state, imposing deeply personal laws on a diverse population. It's essentially decentralized coexistence.
And over in India, you see the Sunni Mughal Empire under Akbar functioning similarly. He was famously holding interfaith dialogues and placing Hindus in high-ranking positions within his royal court.
Right.
But the text also shows us the stark opposite. Like, what happens when an empire turns coercive?
Yeah, that's when you have catastrophic physical interruptions, like the Mongol invasion under Hulagu Khan, destroying Baghdad in 1258.
Devastating.
Though those Mongol descendants eventually assimilated, they converted to Islam in the Ilkhanate and heavily patronized Islamic art. But regarding state-mandated coercion, the text zeroes in on the Safavid Empire.
Founded by Shah Ismail I in 1501.
Right. The Safavids established Twelver Shi'ism as the absolute state religion of Iran. And unlike the earlier dynasties that fostered coexistence, they violently forced the existing Sunni population to convert.
Wow.
What's crucial here is how they did it. They fundamentally shifted the entire state apparatus away from secular sciences and outward inquiry.
Oh, I see.
They redirected all intellectual energy inward, focusing almost exclusively on religious jurisprudence and theology. When a state only values conformity to a highly specific legal code, broad inquiry suddenly becomes a threat.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. It's as if education is the thermostat for an empire's tolerance.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Turn the learning up. Embrace science, translation, broad inquiry, and the persecution naturally goes down because you need diverse minds to fuel that inquiry.
Exactly.
Turn the learning down, focus only on rigid, insular rules, and the coercion immediately spikes.
The author's ultimate takeaway from this historical sweep is vital. Both Sunni and Shia dynasties had chapters of incredible, world-changing inspiration, and both had shameful chapters of brutal coercion.
Right.
The differentiating factor in how people were treated was never the religious sect of the ruler. It was state policy, and specifically the state's valuation of broad knowledge.
Which moves us beautifully from the sweeping history of empires right down to the individual. At the end of the document, the author includes a section titled, "A Note for Those Close to Us."
Yeah, this part is fascinating.
Since history clearly proves that religious labels don't guarantee morality, tolerance, or even safety, he asks what actually does. And his paradigm is that the real divide in any mixed community is entirely based on human character.
It's a really compelling psychological framework to look through. And I should add, whether you fully adopt his exact philosophy or not, it's worth examining. The author suggests that the true division in society isn't between Muslim and Christian or Sunni and Shia. The true division is between what he terms high society and low society.
I have to ask, though, doesn't the term high society sound a bit, I don't know, elitist? Like we're just drawing another arbitrary line to look down on people?
It sounds that way initially, yeah. But the text explicitly decouples this concept from wealth, class, or formal education.
Okay, got it.
A rural farmer with no formal schooling can operate entirely in high society, while a billionaire with 3 degrees can be deeply entrenched in low society.
Oh, that makes sense. So it's behavior.
It is entirely about behavioral orientation. According to the text, a high society individual is someone who values truthfulness over protecting their image. They admire the success of others without a hint of resentment.
Right.
And most importantly, they take deep personal responsibility for their own problems. They feel absolutely no need to cast blame when things go wrong.
The author notes they are constantly learning, sharpening their awareness over time, and they prioritize what the Quran calls the tayyib, the pure.
Exactly.
They marry the pure to the pure, avoiding the khabith or the corrupt. And on the flip side, you have the mechanics of low society.
Yes. The text defines low society characteristics as operating on a constant diet of lies and blame.
Wow.
These are individuals who actively resent those whose lives are going well, and they often specifically resent the people who have helped them. They carry hidden guilt and constantly project it outward, demanding that everyone else change to accommodate their dysfunction.
There's a specific reference the author uses here from Surah al-Munafiqun in the Quran, describing this mindset as thinking every shout is against them.
Right, exactly.
It's the psychology of deep, paranoid victimhood. And because they refuse to take responsibility, they pass that dysfunction down through generations, marrying the corrupt with the corrupt, bringing division wherever they go. And I want to reiterate for you listening, we're just impartially reporting the author's philosophical framework here, not endorsing any particular side.
Right, and the author's prescription for navigating this is remarkably stoic.
Yeah.
He advises countering bigotry not with emotional outbursts, but with absolute clarity, returning to the foundational guidance of the Quran, protecting the integrity of your marriage, and actively keeping your inner circle small and fiercely guarded. Fill it with people who demonstrate high society values, regardless of what religious or ethnic label they happen to wear.
So what does this all mean for you? When you think back over the massive historical timeline we just covered, it completely reframes things.
It really does.
Were all those grand historical conflicts, the forced conversions, the sectarian strife, the manufactured borders, were they actually just low society behavior playing out on an imperial scale?
That's the implication, yeah.
It's essentially rulers choosing blame, resentment, and division over responsibility and truth, just amplified by state power.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is an incredibly empowering way to view both history and your own daily life. By framing the ultimate human struggle as a matter of character rather than category, you completely strip away the weapons that manipulative leaders use. It disarms faith-based tribalism. It neutralizes the appeal of victimhood. It makes ancestry completely irrelevant to your moral standing.
Right.
The author states plainly, high society is not a bloodline. It is a choice made fresh every day.
It makes coexistence a matter of daily, personal accountability. So to bring all these threads together, we've traveled from the consultative governance of the early caliphates through the astonishing intellectual open-mindedness of Baghdad and Cairo, down to the modern reality that Sunni and Shia share an overwhelming foundation of identical core practices.
Yeah.
Ultimately, what this document reveals is that the story of this civilization and the story of our own modern communities isn't defined by the sectarian labels we're just so quick to stick on each other. It's defined by a commitment to broad education and the daily choice to cultivate high society character.
Which leaves us with a vital question to consider. If high society is a choice we have to make fresh every single day through continuous learning, taking absolute responsibility, and rejecting the urge to blame, how much does the modern media and information diet we consume actively encourage us to choose low society habits?
Oh, that's a great point.
When the algorithms constantly reward outrage, resentment, and tribal division, how often are you being subtly coached into low society behavior? And what specific steps will you take tomorrow to tune out that noise, turn up the thermostat of your own learning, and choose the former?
Because if history tells us anything, it's that the clean breaks we expect to see, those simple us versus them narratives, are usually just illusions hiding a much more connected and much more complicated human reality.